Fifth quarter postgame show here on 92 WICB. Sevrin Lavenstein, Jake Shelley here with you. I want to look back at the schedule again, and I know you all know this. You've been following the team, but I just can't emphasize enough how drastic the change has been from after that game at Rochester on October 26th until now. I mean, you're talking about two shutouts back-to-back, one against a formerly ranked team against Hobart at home, dominating against a team that you should dominate in Rochester, scoring 59 points. And even before then, because to me, one of the reasons, because I said earlier that I believe this was not a fraudulent 8-0 team, or excuse me, they were 6-0, I believe.
Yeah.
But the game against St. John Fisher, that's a game where they go down, and then it's a frenzy at halftime. And then they pick themselves back up. They fought through adversity.
Yeah.
And so to me, I thought, okay, that's what I need to see, because that's a team that plays them tough. That's a team that is not going to go down without a fight, and you're going to have to go in there, and you're going to have to beat St. John Fisher in a way that you're not just going to have to give up towards the end like they had at a certain point, after that when they played St. Lawrence or earlier when they played St. Vincent. You'd have to play a full football game with some adversity. I guess with hindsight, it wasn't enough, but that's why I thought this was a team that could play number 25 Union, that could play rival RPI and beat them. And on the other side, we look at RPI's schedule and we say,
what the heck?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's tough. This really flips everything on its head for going into Cortaca, where before we're talking about potentially two undefeated teams, and now, last time I checked, Cortland is losing to Hartwick in the third quarter. It was the last time when I updated that score, but now you're potentially talking about even with a win at Cortaca, they might not make the playoffs. It's going to be, or more than likely, you're not going to make the playoffs.
Coach, here we need to ask you only the most important questions. So now that we've gotten kind of a little bit of insight into how you are as a coach, we need to figure out a little bit more about you as a person. And so I can think of no better way to get to the bottom of that answer by asking you maybe the most important question of all time. So no pressure here.
All right.
You must defend one position, so one of the following. Is cereal soup, or is a hot dog a sandwich? State your case for one.
Okay, is cereal a soup, or is a hot dog a sandwich? I would go hot dog sandwich because of bread.
Everyone's going against Sevrin and I. We think
0 for 2
cereal
here.
is a soup because it's like a cold gazpacho.
We're classifying it in the breakfast gazpacho category, and I really think I have a win here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing a lot of broth.
Fair.
I mean, broth is kind of the core of the soup, and then also when you go look, really cereal, it really is just a bowl of carbs. We're missing a lot of vegetables. I think the better question would be, is chili a soup?
And then we start getting into consistency. Yeah. And then, is oatmeal cereal, because that consistency is different. I mean, there's a lot of different directions to go here.
The big game is catching the Bombers at an interesting time. After being ranked inside the top 10 for the majority of the season, the team lost its final two games of the Liberty League schedule. The most recent 26-point loss to RPI dropped them out of the top 25, and it put a bit of a damper on the South Hill festivities for the past week. The Jug presents a perfect opportunity to finish the season on the right note. Meanwhile, Cortland seems to have steamrolled through their schedule, but the mighty Red Dragons may be more vulnerable than their 8-1 record indicates. An overtime loss to Brockport 2 weeks ago saw them blow a 23-0 lead, and in their most recent game against 1-8 Hartwick, Cortland trailed heading into the fourth quarter. The team was ranked as high as 18th in the nation before the Week 9 loss to the Golden Eagles. The Red Dragons have a solid rushing offense, led by Zach Tripodi. The senior has 1,100 rushing yards on the season, along with 8 touchdowns. Quarterback Brett Zagala has had a successful season, passing for 21 touchdowns and over 2,000 yards. His receivers Cole Burgess and Jason Carlock have combined for 15 touchdowns, and his offense has 3 pass catchers averaging 15 yards per reception. Cortland has shown themselves to be a smart, fundamentally sound football team. Zagala is protected by an offensive line that has allowed only 6 sacks on the year, and the team as a whole is the least penalized in the Empire 8. But there's one more detail that separates this game from any other. As you might have heard, today's game will be played in MetLife Stadium, a place that has seen one of the greatest catches in NFL history, the new miracle at the Meadowlands, a Super Bowl, and yes, even a butt fumble. As part of the celebration of 150 years of college football, and in partnership with the National Football Foundation, Ithaca and Cortland will be providing a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Some 45,000 fans will occupy the seats, some in red, some in blue, but all will help set a new attendance record for a Division III football game. Cortland, Ithaca, who will take home the jug at MetLife Stadium and cap off a wild ride to the 2019 season? Will Ithaca slay the dragon and mark their name in that familiar blue for the third year in a row? Or will Cortland manage to defuse the Bombers and reclaim their title? One thing is for certain, this little game has never been bigger. Now, live from East Rutherford, New Jersey, here are Ben Carlton, Matthias Weilman, and John Vicari with the call. Welcome to the 61st Annual Cortica Jug on 92 WICB Ithaca and the Bombers Radio Network. The players trying to get back to that same spot. And speaking of, let's talk about the Pats. Patriots on a bye this week, but what happened last week? Tough loss to Baltimore. I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming.
Yeah, that was tricky. It was a great coaching design by the Ravens and Harbaugh and Greg Roman and all of them. And I think that the Patriots went in with a game plan that honestly was what I thought they would do, go big up front and just kind of try to force the issue. And that didn't work. As an old school football fan, that was fun to see, but obviously, I wish the result had been the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this sort of echoed on some of the Boston sports stations too, but I think some people were surprised because that offense that the Ravens were running seemed a little college-esque with a lot of, that option offense, short passes, not really a whole lot of, relying on Lamar Jackson to throw it deep or make these really tough throws. Were you surprised that kind of offense, that kind of game plan that Greg Roman put out there was one that beat the Patriots? Because I think a lot of fans definitely were.
I've been surprised all year that it's working, especially after it really didn't work last year. You look at the yards after the catch, 116 of 162 for the Ravens, throwing it in the flat to tight end zone. Like, that's pretty much all they were doing, and it was working. The thing about that offense is it's a very fine line. Like, you have to have the exact right personnel for it to work. If you deviate too much one way or the other, there's going to be flaws that develop, and you're not going to be able to run it at NFL level. And they're just walking that tightrope right now, where they have the exact right personnel to do it. They've built a hell of a team around that system in Baltimore to allow it to work. That, to me, is kind of the key to their second half.
It's really interesting to me to be able to listen to you explain this whole thing because it's so, at least in my opinion, far removed from a fan's perspective, and it's really cool. Have you noticed that about yourself, how you've been able to almost morph from, as you mentioned, growing up as a Boston sports fan to having such a more, I guess, informed opinion and being able to really dissect things as you just have right there?
Well, that fan's still in me. I just can kind of separate it when I need to.
Well, I mean, look, no full disclosure here, I'm a Mookie guy, always have been, probably to some degree always will be. I don't know if I'm going to go as far to call him a sidecar, but I think, really when you look at what he gave this Dodgers team, they needed a guy to push them over the hump. And I know you can say, well, he's still underperforming in the playoffs, just as usual. And I would sort of disagree only to the point with such a short season, you needed someone to provide a spark and provide it quickly. And I'm ready for the numbers that you're going to give me out here in a second, I bet, about his postseason numbers. But even if you just look in what averages out for this shortened season, he's hitting about on par with what he normally does with his batting average, 292 versus what was for a full season last year, 295, which is really one of his lower marks. And then again, with RBIs, it's half of what it normally would be, sitting around that 80 mark normally. It's at about 40. And again, you can adjust for the different games and what have you. But the Dodgers needed a guy to be consistently good. It's even more than above average. It's that one tick above good, a very good player. And even in this postseason, when you're not seeing him hit as well as he can, he's providing defensively. And that's a problem we talk about a lot with the Red Sox, is it sometimes seems like their players really are all or nothing. You get it all on defense or you get it all on offense, and you look for more of those Xander Bogaerts guys who can do it in each department. To me, I'm still stuck on this. This is a guy that you draft and wait to get a Mookie Betts. You throw all your chips into the future to find this guy. And there's just no scenario to me where you move on from him. I think the Dodgers feel very lucky they have him, even if he's not performing at his highest level right now.